Good morning everyone. Welcome to the class of Social Science, Economics, Class 9, Chapter 2. Name of the chapter is People as a Resource. I repeat, People as a Resource. In the contents of this chapter, we are going to learn about human resource, economic activities, quality of population, education. Now in education, we are especially going to learn about a study about Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan, health and unemployment. Now, what is actually human resource stands for? Resource means the way we are used to utilize the things, okay? The technique or the needs that are useful to fulfill our needs are called resources. All the things that are being used to fulfill our needs are called resources, okay? Now, human resources. Human resources is also stands for the manpower or the man resources, okay? Where we are utilizing the things and we are able to fulfill our needs with the help of the people, okay? And what are the aspects of the human resource? This we are going to discuss in the next slide. Now, let's discuss about human resource in detail. People who are a part of the workplace force are called human resource. By contributing in productivity, the human resource plays a significant role in the economy of a country. Now, imagine just saying, it's in the country, we are having the company, okay, very heavy industry. Now, over there, if only the machines are there and there is no human being to use those machines, do you think that those machines are going to give you the production by their own? No, it's not possible, okay? So it means that over there we require human beings to utilize or to use those non-living things, non-living supplements that are said to be the machinery to give the production. So human resource is a very important aspect in the economy of any country, okay? Any other resource becomes useful only because of the input of the human resource. Without human resource, we cannot imply or use anything for the economic of any development in the economy of any country. Investment in human capital yields a return like investment in other resources, okay? As we are as we are able to invest in other forms, okay, in other things by which we used to get the development, we used to get the profit. Same like here, whatever the investment we do for the human resource, okay, human capital, over there also we get the profit, okay, we earn something. How we earn something? See, in the schools now, come to your school. Now over there, if the teachers are not there, only the classes are there, do you think that you are able to study? No, not possible. Over there, what is required? Your teachers are required over there to teach you all, okay? Now see, these all the things are said to be the human resource by which we are able to earn, okay? And as we will earn, obviously the company, the institution or the country will also develop. Now, come to the next point. Investment in human capital is done through the education, training and healthcare. A person with better education usually earns better than an uneducated person. Moreover, a healthy person is more productive. Now, what is the difference between an educated person and a healthy person? See, usually all know and you have already studied that the health has been divided into two parts. That is, usually we study health in two parts, that is called the physical health and the mental health, okay? Now, with the mental health and the physical health, mental health over there, it means that where your mind and the heart is having a sound body, okay? You are having a body which is very sound. You are able to work effectively, compassionately and passionately, okay? Over there, you have the productivity, you are able to do the work more and more long duration, okay? You're not having any sort of diseases inside in your body. Now that's said to be the healthy person, okay? Now comes to the educated person. Educated person means those who have gained knowledge, okay? Those who have gained education in their life. Now uneducated, as its name is clear, just and vice versa, opposite to the educated person. Okay, now investment in the human capital over here means that if we used to contribute our investment for the development of the human beings in the aspect of health, in the aspect of education, in the aspect of training also, over there the human being used to develop. Okay, and as human being used to develop, obviously that human being is going to contribute in the economy of the country. It's going to help in the development of the economy of any country. See students, take an example. I'm giving you my example. If my parents have not given me or contributed their money on me, okay, whatever they earn on me for my education, for my health, so do you think that at that present scenario I will be able to teach you? No, not possible at all, because I have not been able to gain education. I'll not be able to have the good sound health. Okay, so in these cases, including that, as I got education, I started my training also, and as in the training for the teaching sector, I am a teacher now. Okay, and now as I being a teacher, what I am going to do right now, what I am doing, I am teaching you, and as I am teaching you, I am helping in the development of the economy of any country. Okay, so whatever the investment is done to the human capital is always in a profitable manner. Okay, it always comes in a profit, not in a loss. Now, you know what? Educated parents understand the value of education, and hence they invest whatever they have for the child's education to secure the better future of the child. Including that, they are also concerned and aware about their health and the proper nutrition. Okay, this create a virtuous cycle of creating a good human capital. Okay, now why it's so? Because good education is also there, good health is also there, and if all both the things are present in any single human being, in every human being, obviously that person is going to help for the contribution in the economy of the country. Uneducated parents, they are unable to invest to the education and healthcare to their children. Okay, those who are poor, those who are uneducated, those who are not able to attain education in their life, same thing they had to be continued with their children also. Many of the parents have to contribute. Still at the present scenario, in today's world, there are several parents, there are thousands of parents, the millions of parents who are unable to give their children a proper education, including with a good and a proper health care. Okay, this creates a vicious cycle in which the coming generation is often forced to remain poor. Have you seen the beggars? Okay, over there, as they are unable to afford money, they are not able to afford the good education for their children. What used to happen? The children also, their kids also do the same profession what their parents are doing. So it means that they used to unable to contribute with the health in the development of the economy of any country. Okay, if its own country, I can say, not of any country, in its own country itself. So educated people know the importance of education, okay, and healthcare also, and they also know it will be very good for our future generation. But the people who are uneducated and those who don't know the meaning of the importance of education, how they are able to fulfill that need. Okay, this is a basic important point that usually is going to hamper for the development of the economy of any country. Let's discuss about the economic activities. Okay, economic activities can be categorized into three parts, that is said to be the primary activity, secondary activity, and the tertiary activity. Okay, now see, primary activities, secondary activities, and the tertiary activities, these are the three types of economic activities. Okay, now in this, primary activity is usually the activity which is concerned to your own the primary occupation. Okay, the primary occupation from which every occupation used to develop. Okay, now I will be explaining you in detail in the next slide. Over here, you just keep in mind, for example, that is said to be the milk. Okay, take this milk and I will going to divide this milk example, how the milk is being put it off, okay, how the milk is being taken from the animals and how it becomes to the secondary activity and how it changes into the tertiary activities. This example I'm going to continue with. So keep in mind that I'm going to explain you all these three types of activities in the form of the example of the milk. Now, let's discuss in details about the economic activities. Number one is the primary activity. Economic activities which are related to agriculture, poultry farming, fishing, horticulture, animal husbandry, mining, quarrying, etc. are called primary activities. Natural resources are just extracted in primary activities. Now, what does economic activity means and stands for? Economic activities is usually stands related to the agriculture sector, okay, poultry farming, fishing, horticulture, those who are related to the natural resources, okay. All the activities which are directly related to the natural resources comes in the primary activities. Always keep this in mind that the primary activities are always concerned with the direct touch or direct use of the natural resources, okay. Now here, as I told you that I'm going to take the help of the example of milk. Now, animal husbandry over there, they have a cattle of cows, okay, and over there I am just taking out the milk from the cows. Now this is my primary activity as being an occupation, okay. Now comes to the secondary activity. Manufacturing is called the secondary activity. Natural resources are properly modified in the secondary activity. Now, you all know in Rajasthan, Saras is usually a company which is industry which is distributing the milk, okay, making the packets of the milk, and they are distributing throughout the whole Rajasthan. Now here, the secondary activity over there, whatever the cow milk, in the animal husbandry occupation, I have made it out. I sold that milk to the Saras company, okay, Saras industry. Now the Saras industry, what they had did, they had made the packets of the milk, okay, and they had now they are going to manufacture this milk and give and distribute among the people. Now comes to the tertiary activities. Economic activities which support the primary and the secondary activity are called tertiary activity. Now here, what is actually this activity stands for? This activity is usually stands where? Now Saras industry has manufactured the milk in the form of packets. Do you think that the Saras industry is going to come to individual house, door to door, and they're going to distribute the milk? No, not possible. Okay. So in this case, what they are going to do? They are going to search for a market. Okay, market. They are going to search for the shop where they can sell these milk to the general public. So the market over there, the transportation, everything, whatever is being required, that all comes in the tertiary activities. Got understood, everyone? Now, milk, production of the milk was the primary activity by the animals, okay. Now, secondary activity come with the manufacturing of the milk in the form of the packets, okay. Now, again it got modified. After that, production work and the manufacturing work, now what we require? We require a market, a transportation facility where we can distribute the money to the general public, okay. Over there, the company is not going to go door to door over there, okay. So this is called the tertiary activities. Now I hope you have all understood the difference between the primary, secondary and the tertiary activity. Clear? So primary activity is related to the direct use of the natural resources in form of occupation. Secondary activity which used to convert those natural resources or that occupation into the manufacturing work. Okay. Now comes to the tertiary activities. Tertiary activities are those which comes to distribute that manufacturing material to the normal public. economic activities are also being categorized into two forms that are said to be the market activities and the non-market activities. Now, what is the difference between market activities and non-market activities? Market activities, as the name is clear, all the activities which is done in the market. As I told you, that all the primary occupation, the secondary activity and the tertiary activity, they all are in the form of the market activities, okay, where the person is cultivating and the producing, manufacturing, and on the other hand they are selling that to the other people, okay. That's all called to be the market activities. Now, what is non-market activities? Non-market activities are those market activities where we are not giving to the other people in spite of giving to our own people only. Okay, take an example for the housewives. What the housewives are doing, they are also doing work for us, okay. They are also performing several tasks for the family members, but over there they are not concerned for the profit. Over there they are concerned with the well-being of our family members, okay. She used to take care, your mom used to take care of the whole house, okay. Father also, if they are having your grandparents too, and you all too. Now, over there, do you think that she is going to earn something? No, she is not earning something, but still she is giving and utilizing her human resource to take care of your well-being, okay, to take care of all the family members, by which they can have a good, healthy and a wealthy life. So this was said to be the non-market activities, okay. And market activities related to the marketing sector, where the production is done, manufacturing work is done, and also including that where the other public from the society are involved, okay. Other human resources are also involved in the market activity. Now let's discuss on the quality of population. Now, how do we can increase the better quality or the good quality of population? Literacy rate, health and skills determine the quality of population. Illiterate and unhealthy population can be a liability for the economy. Now, how can we turn into a liability? Because over there they are unable to give you a proper human resource, okay. They are unable to help you out in the development of the economy. Obviously, if we are sick, I'm sick person, I'm not, if I'll be sick, I'll not be able to teach you. If I'm not educated, I will not be able to teach you, and as I will not be able to teach you, obviously it's going to affect in the economy of the country, okay. Now, literate and healthy population can be made into an asset. Asset means something which is a yielding one, which is giving you a profit, going to give you a profit in your future, okay, for the economy. Literate and healthy population contributes toward the GDP of any country, okay. What do GDP stands for? Gross domestic product. Now, what does it mean? It means it's a product, it's a sort of you can say a measurement calculation work where the people used to, or the economy used to develop, okay. That is said to be the gross domestic product, GDP, okay. Now here, what are the three terms that are being usually required for the making the quality of the population or the quality of the human resource? That is said to be the literacy rate, okay, health and the skills. Skills means over here how to perform the function. So now listen, for the teaching job, if I'm saying that it's not so easy to become a teacher. Why so? How I'm saying? Because everyone can teach very nicely, but still to become a teacher, because we have to be a very professional, we have to be very good skill, how to communicate with the students, how to make them understand with the contents of the chapter. Now over there, obviously we require skills, okay. Way how to teach the students, how to understand the psychology of the students, how to treat with them, because they are not our family members, they are something very different, okay. They are something which are coming from other family in the society, okay. So how being a teacher interact with them, these are the things that's called said to be the skills. A doctor needs practice, okay. He needs the method how to treat the patients. So these are called the skills. Now understood the three meaning, that is literacy rate, good health and skills, okay. These are the three factors which are important for the better and the best quality of population. Now, let's discuss in details about education. Education enhances the literacy level and skill level of a person. It also helps in enriching the culture of a society. Now, presence of educated people in society indirectly benefits to the illiterate people as well. Okay, how so? Now, see, I'm educated. All the family members are educated. Now, there's a maid which are coming to our house for the household work, helping hand. Okay, she is not so much educated, and when she sees that we are educated, I used to teach the students. Now one day she came to me and said that, ma'am, are you able to teach my kids also, because I want my kids to be study, or can you teach me also for how to read and how to write? So over there what I'm doing, what they did, over there in the presence of the educated people, that person who was uneducated is trying to attain that resource, okay, trying to attain that quality of population. So over there she is going to learn if I am going to teach her, okay. This usually affects, so education usually affects every human being, whether it's educated or uneducated. Uneducated people, how they're affected, because they also try to become like us, okay. They also try to increase up their living standard, okay. They also want to fulfill their own needs, and this they knew that they can only and only get it through education. The government has taken various steps to spread education among the people. Government strives to provide universal access to education. It also makes various plans to increase the retention of students. Special emphasis is given on the girls' education. Yes, that's very true, that in the education sector, the government is making several plans, especially for giving good and proper education to the children, especially for the girl child. Why? Because from the previous scenario, from the previous years and long back years, girls were being given lack from the education, and in the present scenario, everyone knows that girls stands equal to the boys, okay. There is no discrimination now in the society. So as there is no discrimination over there, what's happening? The girls are having also the rights of getting the education as being the under the Constitution Act. Now over there, as the girl child is having the right to study, over human resources or the government is also emphasizing to give more and more education and make the parents aware that the daughters can get more and more education by the help of the government or by help of any of the institutions, okay. So there the government is usually been continuously taking efforts, lots of efforts, for getting or giving more and more education to the people, either they are boys or girls, but usually they are basically focused on the girls, okay. Boys are there, they are getting education, but they are also focusing on the girls, because there are several families where they are not allowing the girl child to study, they are only related to the household work, okay. So education is the most important part, where used to develop the literacy level also and the skills level of any person. Now let's discuss about the topic Sarv Shiksha Abhiyan. Now Sarv Shiksha Abhiyan SSA is an Indian government program aimed at the universalization, I repeat, universalization of elementary education in a time-bound manner as mandated by 86th Amendment of the Constitution of India, making free and compulsory education of ages 6 to 14, okay, estimated to be 2,205 million in numbers in 2001, a fundamental right. This program was planned by Atal Bihari Vajpayee, late Mr. Atal Bihari Vajpayee, who was a former Prime Minister of India. He was from the BJP party. Now, Sarv Shiksha Abhiyan is actually being aimed for giving education to every human being, okay, with in a very time bound manner. Time bound manner over here means they have decided that during this duration we have to give education to such million people, okay. So what they did, as mandated by the 86th amendment of the Constitution of India, to make it free and compulsory education for the children of 16 to 14 years old. So they estimated that by 2001 we have to provide education at least to 205 million number of the children in this country, okay, where it's their fundamental right to get education, right to education. You all know this is our fundamental right, okay. And this program, this Sarv Shiksha Abhiyan, was being started by late Mr. Atal Bihari Vajpayee. Now, the government has launched the Sarv Shiksha Abhiyan to spread remote education to the remotest part of the country. Okay, remotest part, it means most of the parts of the country. Under this program, all the children below under the age group of 6 to 14 years of age are given elementary education. Government also provides midday meal in the government school so that the poor people, the children of the poor people, can get a proper diet for having a good health also, okay. Midday meal has helped many children from the poor family to attend school. Now you know what, usually most of the things that happen, that for the poor children, they used to come to the school only in the greediness of the food, okay, because they are not they are not able to avail a good quality of food, and just for attaining and taking that food, they used to come to the school and take the classes, and they take the education also. So over there, this Sarv Shiksha Abhiyan and the midday meal program has basically affected in the human resource, okay, in the human quality. Now how it is being activated and how it is being made in a good manner, because first of all, as per Sarv Shiksha Abhiyan, as per SSA, it has been decided that we are going to provide elementary education to the age group of 6 to 14 years old, by which they are able to read and write, okay. Now, just as poor people, children of the poor people who are not able to study, they are able to get the education with this scheme. Now, there are many kids who are doing or indulge with any other profession, okay, and they really don't want to continue, or they don't want to come to the school for getting education, and parents are also not sending their kids for getting education. Now, to attract that individual section, the government has launched the program of midday meal, okay. Now, in this MDM, that midday meal, over there, the children who are coming in the government school, properly hygienic food is being made especially for these poor kids, okay, where these sort of kids are coming, okay, they are taking a good diet, good food, okay. For that, taking the good food, they have to study, they have to take education. So this is a sort of I can say that midday meal or MDM is a sort of a trap to take or grasp all the categories of the students of all the age group from 6 to 14 years old who are not interested in the studies, okay. Now, the 10th plan has focused on increasing the enrollment in the higher education from 6 to 9%. The strategy is to increase access, quality and adoption of the state specific curriculum to motivate enrollment in higher education. Vocational courses are also offered, and used to information technology is being maximized to attain the goal. The 10th plan also focuses on the distant education, convergence of formal, non-formal kind of and further education too. Now see, the 10th plan is basically focused on increasing the percentage of the higher education. It means 10th class and the 12th class, okay, it will extended to the, according to the 10th plan, they had made a plan that it was previously the 6%, now we have to make it to the 9% at any cost. Now, this strategy, what is going to use to help? This strategy is going to help in the access and the quality, and including the adoption of the state specific curriculum, okay, which is going to help and to motivate the children to study more and more. Vocational courses. Vocational courses are actually usually those courses which are given to a sort of a training courses, okay, some apart from the education sector, on the basis of the technical skills, the people are being taught, those who are unable to learn, okay, those who are unable to read and write, they have been given some vocational courses, okay, over there. Specific, for example, you can say the software engineers, okay, you can say the people who are having the short small industries, okay, how to make the carpet from the hands, okay, how to do the works for the where it is being used for the related to the other sector. In for the small scale industries, vocational courses are being given. So according to the 10th plan, they are actually being making the people to help in the economy of the country more and more, okay. They are not only related or just concerned with the educated people, but they are also concerned with the uneducated people. Now take an example for your own life. Now, have you seen the carpenters, okay, have you seen the small workers who are working on the roadside, okay, what they used to do, they are being given the vocational courses, they have been given the training of any courses, that where they used to work and how they used to perform that particular sort of work. And as they get those courses, they are being totally trained, okay, in that skills, that how to make that job in the help of the, or can get the help in the development of the economy of any country. Now, the 10th plan is usually also focused on the distant education. Distant education means you are sitting over here in Jaipur, you are sitting in Rajasthan, but I am taking the classes from Bangalore. Okay, there is a company where in institution which is giving me the technical knowledge, which is giving me the technical trainings related to the teaching scenario or any other aspect or any other industry, okay, just sitting over here. I am not being told to go to the Bangalore or Hyderabad to join that institute. Okay, so this is called distant education, where as for example right now you can take, as I am teaching you, or it is sort of a distant education only. Now, convergence of the formal and for formal and the education over there, where the people used to change, changing from a very normal aspect, from a very different aspect to a very higher aspect, it can say. Now what does it mean? It means that where the people are changing their living style, okay, as we are getting education, as we have got training, as we have got the skills also developed inside our body, okay, inside our mind, and we know how to perform the function. Over there, the people are able to change their living style too, and also they are going to get a good proper education. Comes for the present goals of the Sarv Shiksha Abhiyan. Its goal of 2015 were to open new schools in the areas which do not have them, to expand existing school infrastructures and maintenance, address inadequate teacher number and provide training development for existing teachers, provide quality elementary education including life skills, with special focus on the education of girls and children with special needs, as well as computer education. Now what does it mean? Simple, as it points is clear, that Sarv Shiksha Abhiyan goal according to the 2015, it was earlier, that they have been focused on opening of the new schools, especially where the people, where the schools are not able to afford a good infrastructure. It means good quality of the method to teach, okay. Desks are not there, the chairs are not there, blackboards are not there, including the teachers are also not present over there. These are going to, they are going to help such places, okay, where they are going to open new schools. Now, second thing, that where they are the lack of the teacher or inadequate teacher, okay, it means, for example, I can say they are the teachers of English, there is a teacher of maths also, there is a teacher of science also, but there is no teacher of Hindi, there is no teacher of SSC. Now over there, what they are usually going to do, they are going to provide teachers for them, by which they can help for the education. Now, including that, they also help for the training development also. Now, how the training comes? As I told you, they used to give the vocational trainings. Okay, they used to give then some technical trainings also to the students. Okay, of another scenario, of another aspects who can help in the economy of the country. Now, they even also provide trainings to the teachers by which they can use more and more give more and more output for the help in the development of the economy of the country. Now, they also provide the quality elementary education, the life skills. It means, see, as you all know that when you are teaching in the school, over there the teacher is not only focused on your studies, but she or he is also focused on your overall development, your life skills, how to make you a perfect human being, how to make and increase your ethical knowledge, or how to make you a human being with having a perfect living style or the life skills. Okay, every aspect of the life is being discussed with you all. Now, here they are basically focused on the girls, because you know in the previous days the girls are not able to come out of the house. Now, as they have been able to come out of the house, obviously their focus is on the girls, by which they also get good education, and with that good education they can help in the economy of the development of the country. Now, coming to the topic of health, you all know that the physical sound health used to give a more ineffective productive manner, or help in the productive manner to the economy of any country. A healthy person can fully realize his potential and can be an asset for the economy. An unhealthy person shall not be able to realize his potential and can be a liability for the economy. Now, the National Health Policy of India is aimed towards improving the access to health services and improving the nutrition, especially among the underprivileged classes. Now, what does it mean, underprivileged classes? Underprivileged classes where the people or the group of the people are not able to get good health care. Okay, they are not able to afford good quality of medicines for their well-being and for their own development, having a good health. Okay, the government health system is composed of many tiers of hospital. The primary health care centers are the bottom of this tier and provide general medical care to the rural people. Okay, the rural people, which means the people who are residing in the villages. So health is actually, students, usually help or mostly in the economy of the country. How so? Now take my example. I am a teacher. If I am not healthy, I am having any disease inside my body, okay, and I used to feel very oftenly sick, I used to have fever oftenly, okay, so what is going to be happen? This is going to hamper your studies, because as I'm going to take the leave just because of my health, is going to hamper my work also, it's going to hamper your studies also. Okay, now over there, do you think that I'll be able to contribute properly in the development of the economy of the country? No, not at all, because I'm not having any sound health. So the person who are having the sound health, they are more effective and more productive in comparison to the unhealthy person. Now over there, for the making those unhealthy person into the healthy person, okay, and to providing them the good health care, good facility, good nutrition, the National Health Policy of India was being made, okay, where they focus that each and every citizen should attain good health care from the government and from the society itself. Okay, so the over there the government has decided there are many tiers of hospitals they had made, but right now you can say the primary healthcare center, okay, which are especially made in the rural areas for the rural public, they are the most important part of the centers of the, or you can say the bottom tier of this National Health Policy of India. Now let's discuss what is unemployment. When a person is actively seeking a job but is unable to get employed, he or she is called an unemployed person. People in the working age of 15 to 59 years only can be termed unemployed if any one of them is without gainful employment. Now, as being at the age, right now in the age of this time, I am seeking for a job, I am looking for a good job, but I am not able to get it. So over there, what does it mean? I am an unemployed person. I am not able to work. I am having the education, I am having everything, but still apart from that, I am sitting at my home because I am not having job. So I will be called an unemployed person. Okay. Additionally, if a person voluntarily does not want to work and he cannot be unemployed. Now over there, I am educated, I am everything, I can get a job, but still in spite of that, I am sitting at my home because I don't want to do any work. Okay, so what will happen over there? Over there it will happen that we will not be able to perform well. Okay, we will not be able to contribute in the development of the economy, and we are not going to called as an unemployed person. Over there, that unemployment is totally based on our own wish. Okay, so that is not said to be the unemployed person. So understand the difference between employed and an unemployed person. Employed person who is helping in the development of the economy of the country, that is said to be the employed person. Unemployed person is said to be the person who wants to help in the economy or development in the economy of any country, but unable to do so because he or she is unable to find a suitable work as per their knowledge and their skills, or any other condition. Okay, due to any other condition. Over there, we cannot classify the person who is sitting at the home idle and don't want to do work, that is not said to be an unemployed person. Now understood? Now, unemployment is usually also occurs, okay, in some criteria, that is said to be the seasonal unemployment. Okay, what is said to be the seasonal unemployment? Usually seasonal unemployment is seen when the duration of the, we can say, for the farming sector, agriculture work. Okay, now, as production of rice is concerned, to some extent the production of rice is concerned to only for few months. After few months, the farmers are usually unemployed because their land is appropriate only for the cultivation of the rice, not for any other cereal. So over there, they are not told to be the employed person for some duration. Okay, that is said to be the seasonal unemployment. What is said to be the seasonal unemployment? Now see, this type of unemployment is more prevalent in the rural areas. The farming cycle is season based. There are certain months which are quite busy for a farm worker. There are many other months when a farm worker is without any work. Now understood the meaning of the seasonal unemployment? Okay, so usually the seasonal unemployment is a sort of employment where the people or the group of people, especially the farmers, are doing the work or are busy in their work for some period of time or some months. Okay, after that, the rest of the months or the rest of the time they are free because as per the requirement of the season they are doing the cultivation. Now come with the next topic, that is called to be the hidden unemployment. Now what understand with the meaning of the hidden unemployment? Hidden unemployment is actually where we are having the resources but those resources are not being utilized properly. For example, take a farmland, okay, agriculture work. There are 8 members in a family or 6 members in a family, and over there only at that one particular land 3 members are required, not more than that. But apart from that, the whole of the family, all the 6 members or the 8 members, they are working on that particular land, where the rest 5 members among the 8 members, the 3 are only required, rest other 5 members are just working effortlessly. Okay, they are not helping anything, they are just doing because they are not having any job. That is said to be the hidden unemployment, where they are not getting any job, they are not having any other work, so they are contributing that human resource to the waste required thing where they are not being required properly. Okay, now their potential could be have given better result if it has been utilized somewhere else. Okay, now Similar situations can be seen in the family shops also, where you have the own shop. Over there, already your father has started a business and opened a shop over there. Now he is doing work on the shop, but your mom is sitting also over there. You are also going and sitting and handling all the work of the shop. So what does it require for? It don't require over there. Your father is sufficient over there, or anyone to help us are sufficient. But whole of the family is indulged with the same occupation. This is said to be the hidden unemployment. Now, educated unemployed people. The problem of employment among the educated youth is very high in the urban areas. Why? Because they are getting the education, but they are not getting good proper employment to help in the economy of the country. Nowadays, even highly educated youths like graduates, postgraduates are unable to find a job because there is so much shortage of the job opportunities. Some analysts suggest that most of the highly educated youth do not possess employability. But most of the analysis says that it's because of the demand-supply gap. Yes, obviously, the students are getting education more and more, but the companies are not having appropriate opportunities for them. While many technically qualified people are unemployed, they had taken so many courses, vocational courses, some training courses to get employment, but still they are unemployed because of the company, because of the industry which are not available for them. The jobs are not available for them. There are many jobs remaining vacant because of the lack of people. Trained person. Now imagine, just take an example for the software engineer. I am not a software engineer. There is a company in my area where it's requirement of a software engineer, but as not being a software engineer, I'll not be able to apply because I'm not trained for that particular sector. So that means that over there many people are also unemployed just because they are not trained in that particular field. Many companies are having position, but as per the trained person, as per the trained skills are required, they are not fulfilling those things. So that is also said to be the educated unemployed. Now comes what actually the effects of the unemployment occurs in the society. Unemployment can be emotionally draining to an employed person. It can be financial and emotional drain on the family members. A large number of unemployed people is ultimately a liability for the society. High rate of unemployment can also increase the crime rate. Yes. Now see, unemployment is basically making a person very emotionally disturbed. Why so? Because he or she is not able to perform as per his or her own skills, her own knowledge. For take an example, I'm giving you my example. I am an educated person, I'm a trained person, but I'm not getting any job for the teaching sector. All the schools are closed and I'm searching for a job, but I'm not getting a job. Over there what I'll feel in the condition of a depression. Why so? Because I'm not able to help my family, I'm not able to earn money for my livelihood. Over there I'll be depressed, I'll be emotionally disturbed, and with my emotional disturbance also my family is also going to get affected. And why my family is going to get affected? Because of the financial strain. Because I'm not able to help the people, my family members, to get a proper diet or get a proper living as I was giving earlier. Now a large number of people are unemployed, and which is actually making the liability on the society. Yes, if I was earning earlier but now I am not earning, over there what's that to be? I'm going to be a liability on my family. Then my family members, we have to arrange something for the food. Over there no one is earning. Now this is called said to be the liability. Where you are taking take an example that any person who is a youth age, who has done the graduation or post graduation but not finding any job, he or she is a liability on the family members. Why? Because they are able to afford, they are able to help the society for the economic development, but they are not able to get the job properly. So on the family members, they are an liability, and on the society also they are a liability. The society has to take care of them because as being the part of the society. Now High rate of the unemployment also increases to the crime rate, because the people, many of the people used to get or gain make the financial conditions strong, and for that one making those conditions strong, they used to go to the bad ways. Okay, they used to do the crime, they used to do the sins. Now over there it used to increase the crime rate inside the society. So education is not only important for the aspect of the development of the financial condition or the economy of the country, but education and health and other aspects are also very important for making a person a good person. Okay, making a civilized person, by which the crime rate should be reduced. So in this chapter we have learned that how do the people works or performs as a resource for the development of the country. Okay, the people as a resource or the human resources used to develop in the economy of the country by several ways. Okay, if there will be no human resource, the economy of the country cannot be survived. Okay, we require, or every country require, the human resources for good cultivation, for good production, for good manufacturing other works. So this we have learned in this chapter. Now what is your work is to do that you have to read the chapter properly at your home and try to understand that what are the basic features that have been required for essential for the employment and the employment also. Okay, it's most important that what are the basic things which are being required, or what you may understand by the human resource in your country. Okay, till then, have a nice day. Thank you for watching this.